Hello YouTube, this is Brendan with Cusack Prep, and this is going to be a short video discussing how you multiply matrices. Now, in order to multiply matrices, the first thing that the two matrices have to meet is that the columns of the first matrix have to match the rows of the second matrix. Let me show you through a couple different examples what I mean by that. So we'll construct three matrices. We'll have matrix A, which will be a 2 by 2 matrix. And it is 2 by 2 because there are two rows going across and there are two columns going down. I'm going to construct matrix B, which is going to be a 3 by 2 matrix. So matrix B will have 3 rows and 2 columns. Finally, I'm going to construct matrix C as a 2 by 3 matrix. So this matrix will have 2 rows and 3 columns. And I'm just picking random numbers here, nothing special about them. Okay, so just to reiterate, matrix A is a 2 by 2 matrix. Matrix B has 1, 2, 3 rows and 1, 2 columns, so it is a 3 by 2 matrix. And matrix C is a 2 by 3 matrix, 2 rows and 3 columns. Now, some important things to keep in mind, as I said before, the columns of the first matrix C have to match the rows of the second matrix C, otherwise you're not going to be able to do this multiplication. For example, let's say I wanted you to find the product of matrix A times matrix B. Well, we actually can't do this because matrix A is a 2 by 2 matrix. When multiplied by matrix B, a 3 by 2 matrix, the columns of the first matrix C do not match the rows of the second one. And this is a helpful little tool. You can just draw out rows by columns of the first one, rows by columns of the second one. If you see that the two inside numbers match, you can multiply them. If they do not match, you cannot multiply them. And usually the answer to something like this would be no solution. However, let's say I wanted to do matrix B times matrix A. Well, matrix B is a 3 by 2 matrix. Matrix A is a 2 by 2 matrix. So what we find is that the rows, the columns of the first matrix match the rows of the second matrix. And what these two numbers tell you, that 3 there and that 2 there, is that your output is going to be a 3 by 2 matrix. So in order to multiply matrix B times matrix A, I'm going to set up a matrix that has room for 3 rows and 2 columns. Leaving a little extra space here, you'll see why in a second. Alright, so now let's get into the nitty-gritty of how to multiply them. So if we want to do matrix B times matrix A, what we need to do is we take the first row, so the row of B, and we multiply it by the column of A. So we take our row of our first and we multiply it by the column of our second. So what I'm going to do here is I am multiplying this row, row 1, by this column, column 1. And that's going to give me row 1, column 1 in the output. When you multiply them, you take the first term and multiply it by the first term. So in this case, 1 times 1, which is going to give me 1. And then I add it to the second term going across and the second term going down. So in this case, 5 by 2. So just to emphasize, I took this number, multiplied it by this number, and then I took this number, and I multiplied it by this number, and then I added them. Because I took row 1 and column 1, my output is now row 1, column 1 in here. So this whole area represents its own space. Now, let's say I wanted to go on and I want to get row 1, column 2. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take row 1 of B and multiply it by column 2 of A. So in the same manner, 1 times negative 3, 5 times 6, which is 30, and you add them. Moving on, let's say I want to get row 2, column 1. So it's my second row down, but my first column. I multiply row 2 by column 1. In this case, 5 times 1 plus 2 times 1. To get row 2, column 2, I multiply row 2 by column 2. Row 2, the first number is 5, column 2, negative 3. And then 6 times 1. To get row 3, column 1, I multiply row 3 by column 1. Negative 2 times 1. And 3 times 2. And then finally, I take row 3 and multiply it by column 2. Negative 2 times negative 3 plus 3 times 6 is 18. Now, once I have this, obviously you're not going to leave it in this form, but you're going to simplify each of these individual spaces. 1 times 1 plus 5 times 2 is 11, plus 10 is, plus 1 plus 10 is 11. Negative 3 plus 30 is going to give me 27. 5 plus 2 is going to give me 7. Negative 15 plus 6 is going to give me negative 9. Negative 2 plus 6 is going to give me 4. And 6 plus 18 is going to give me 24. And what you can see is at the end, this is 1, 2, 3 rows by 2 columns, which is what we expect, given what we started with. Thank you for watching. In the following videos, I'll provide a couple more examples to really help iron in this concept.